Gradually it rises.
Yo, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, and I'm going to try something a little bit different here. Randomly just going to go in, what I do every day, go into eBay and look at a listing, talk through it a little bit, and upload the audio and the visual that you see here. So basically, the first thing I see when I'm on eBay all the time is you're going to see these different convertibles that pop up. This one is a 1963. It advertises it as custom convertible with 20-inch wheels, ride tech, $137,500, which is a huge price. If you follow these cars, you know once you start to get to the six-figure range, you really start to get into kind of a high-dollar car. Some are resto modded, some are all original, but typically you're going to start getting into, custom wheels, different motor swaps, things like that. So what I would tell you to look at first here is the price is very, very, very high. I also look over here at seller's information, 492 in terms of rating. So I looked at this a moment ago before I started recording this. There's 4 pages. It says 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, obviously all positive, which is a good thing. When you scroll down and go to page 4, you will see there are some feedbacks more than a year ago. There's a whole page, right? You go to page 3, more than a year ago. Page 2, more than a year ago. And then page 1, almost all the more than a year ago. So this person's kind of been off for a while, at least more than a year, right? So that's something to keep in mind. It's like, okay, they haven't been an active seller, not necessarily a bad thing. You take a look here and you want to see where is it located. So Benson, North Carolina gives a little bit of idea in terms of what your shipping is going to be, depending on if you're in California, so on and so forth. What I then do is I go down here and I start to read some of the description. So I look at, this is a 430, of course, original engine. That immediately tells me that. It has a ride tech air suspension. It's on 20s, so it's going to give you some of the eye candy first. It's been benefited from a full restoration. This is key, right? So Nathan Wilson will tell you this, and I've talked to him before. I've had him on Lincoln Addict podcast. When you start to see full restoration, that means different things to different people, all right? Nathan Wilson, I would say, based upon the few photos I looked at, this is not a full restoration, okay? He takes apart the seat tracks. He takes apart the wiring. He cleans everything. His restoration is probably a full restoration. From what I've seen so far, in some of the photos I looked at right before I started recording this, this is not a full restoration, and I'll show you why. It talks about the paint, so we know that it's been repainted. That's a key thing, okay? It could hide some things, but we'll talk about it. The car was a solid car prior to restoration, so again, they're admitting that there was a resto, right? All the original chrome, including all interior chrome, has been chrome plated. This then calls into, for me, where was it chrome? Where was the chrome plating redone? If you followed me through Lincoln Addict, you know that I've used the advanced plating in the past. They're in Tennessee, one of the best in the business. If you follow Ken Diggett or you've ever watched their show Bitch and Rides, you know they use like Ogden, I believe it is. There's a few chrome places that are great. When people tell me they're going to get chrome done really quick and they've got a guy that's going to do it in weeks and you're not waiting to get chrome plating done, this sometimes will scare me because it's like, who did it? The car has a beautiful black leather interior. The body lines and gaps are excellent. Again, they're calling out some of the key things that you would hope. So I immediately start to go, okay, should I be suspect of this? The engine bay has been fully restored as well. It is show quality, all right? So it talks about the original miles. I'm always suspect of this because like in one of my cars, the odometer has rolled over. If I ever tried to sell it, I could easily say, oh, it has 24,000 miles. But if I look at the paperwork, I know that it was at 70,000 miles when it went into a service. So I know for a fact with mine, my odometer still works. It's at around 24 or 25,000, something like that. I know for a fact mine has turned over. So then I question, is it really 57,000 miles? The car is very smooth and tight. The car is a pleasure to drive. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm just kind of going through the information, right? It talks about the isotope wheels, the tires. There's great adjustability in the suspension and rides, better than a new Cadillac Escalade, okay? I would argue that this is not true. I've been around air suspension for 25 years. Cars do ride great. If you own one of these cars, I will put money on it that I tell you what, if you have a nice car, it rides perfect stock, okay? When you start to see this, when they start to say it rides better than a new Escalade, I wouldn't believe that. Other options include automatic trans. They all had automatic trans. There's no manual transmission, so it's not an option. Power steering was not an option. You start to get into some of these other things. They weren't. Air conditioning was technically an option. The original AM radio is not an option. That was automatic. So you start to kind of get into some things. This tells me they don't know the cars inside and out, and that's not a bad thing because a lot of people don't, okay? You talk about Carolina Muscle Cars, Inc., Benson, North Carolina, and then you've got a phone number, which is fantastic, right? You'll see a lot of sellers, they want to get on the phone with you because they want to sell, right? They don't want tire kickers. You see the first photos, and they are awesome. Really no complaints here. You start to look at, I'm immediately looking over here at the dash. I'm looking to see, is this original? Was this replaced? You've got some good photos. Now, first thing I look at when I go here is the seat, okay? The seat, if this was a full restoration, this seat would not look like this, okay? Number one, it's not a full restoration. You could argue and say, hey, the seats were left original, which is what I would like, but I'm a little suspect of this. The next thing I do is I zoom in. A couple of my friends do the same, and we start to look at the gas pedal, all right? You start to look. Now, if a car wasn't driven that much, you're going to see a pretty nice gas pedal, and oftentimes we have our foot on the gas pedal in a certain way, and you'll start to see it kind of rubbed off here and rubbed off here. Even though this isn't a high-quality photo, I would say so far the gas pedal does look pretty good. I start to look around here. The carpet doesn't appear to be replaced because this foot pad is still here. There are replacements like through Wallace. He will sew in this foot pad, but for the most part, when I look at this, it kind of looks original. Although they may have steam cleaned it, I'm kind of going, all right, so far that looks pretty good. But again, the seat looks original and it looks pretty worn. All right. So you start to get in here. I'm not so concerned with, was this replaced? I'm more concerned with the paint. Was it repainted? We kind of know that it was based upon the description. And you'll see, sometimes a little bit of a tell, so to speak, of what the condition of the car is. Now, on the Lincoln Addict podcast, I've went over what these numbers mean, the DSO and things like that. I'm not going to cover that now, but the VIN will tell a little bit of a story on what the destination was. All right. Any good place like this muscle shop that's selling this car is going to spend some time, and they're probably paid either an in-house person or someone in the within their area that's a high-end detailer to go through and clean the engine bay, all right? This engine bay looks really, really, really good, okay? What it tells me is, one, someone repainted these items to make them look so nice. You see a 3-port here, all right? John Cashman, Blair Farmer, myself, Tony Bolin, anyone will tell you need to have a 3-port Carter fuel pump, all right? This 1, 2, and 3, that means it doesn't have the cheap replacement 2-port. Number 2, again, I'm seeing that more than likely someone resprayed a lot of this, like right in this area. It doesn't look very old, so I'm a little suspect to, did they just do a fresh respray? I do see over here, it looks like the brake, the master cylinder has been changed, so it's not the original single, which those are very dangerous. If the single goes out, you lose your brakes. Although it's factory correct, you really want to go with the dual. All right. The next thing I see is the fan shroud. So the fan shroud is a 64-65. It's the metal one. All right. I see the screws here, bolts, if you will, have kind of been changed, it appears. And what that just tells me is that this has been taken apart at some point. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You still got the clip here that holds the two fuel lines that kind of comes over. So it kind of shows, hey, if they put it back together, they did do, they put the stuff back. All right, so here, most people are going to want to look at these doors, and they're going to want to look at the seats, which I think the seats look very bad. Okay, you can see here the wrinkle. You can see the back seat looks horrible where you sit. The front seat looks horrible. Again, a full restoration, you'll see that often. You'll see those two words. This is not a full restoration, all right? You'll also see here, the first place my eyes go are the door jambs, so I want to kind of look to see what is the tell there. Is there any thing that I can see? Of course, you got a watermark on the right side, but I'm looking to see, do I see any rust? Do I see anything that could give me a little bit of indication to some lipstick on a pig, so to speak, right? I hate to say that, but you can see, based upon it looks pretty clean, that's part of the respray. What I see down here is I see the air suspension controller, which is kind of tucked underneath the seat a little bit. Again, the seats look very, very bad. I'm not a fan of the way the seats look, okay? If it's a full restoration, the seats should not look like this. You would want to then begin, if you were going to buy this car and say, hey, the seats probably need to be redone, you're going to want to check with someone within your town or area to find out what the seats cost, okay? When I bought my 65, the red car from Robert had the seats redone and he had a receipt. And the seats to be redone in leather are upwards to $3,000 to $4,000 depending on the market and things like that. Again, you're going to want to probably focus your attention towards all the chrome and the stainless and things like that. My attention immediately goes to the door jamb and start to look, how bad are things? Okay, is there any rust? And again, this car was probably recently painted. That kind of hides up potentially anything that was a problem. I can see that it has the original kick panels, so these little carpeted areas. So that's a good thing. It kind of shows everything is there. And off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't know if this wood grain is period correct. It very well may not be, and I can tell you from my gut feeling, it is not, okay? Anyone like Chris Dunn or the guys like that, they can rattle this stuff off. I'll tell you, it should have the little kind of rings that go around here. I'm pretty certain I'm about 95% sure this is not accurate. So it kind of goes into, if it's a full restoration, it really should have the original steering wheel that was restored, in my opinion, okay? You start to look down here and you see, in this photo, the way the steering wheel is, you don't see these gauges. In this photo, you do, all right? What's the importance of that? Well, these gauges, many of us grew up in hot rods and trucks and things, and these gauges were always prevalent, right, in different vehicles. In a Lincoln, these should not be prevalent, all right? If this was a full restoration, the gauges, including the speedometer, would work fine, and this is definitely suspect. Why are these there, okay? I do see this. Please don't touch. So he's letting his customers know not to touch, right? You start to look here, you can see the gauges down here. And again, the good thing about 61 to 63 is all of this stuff kind of comes out fairly easy, a little bit easier than 64, 65. You have your clock over here, you have your speedometer, and then, you have your fuel gauge and temp. But again, why are these gauges here? That is not, if I was talking about a movie, I would say this is not screen accurate. And, you have some of your indicators here. So it's like, what's going on? If it's a full restoration, you don't need this. All of this stuff would work. Okay. You've got some more photos. Typically on these early 60s Lincolns, what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of peeling for the coating that was put on these items, okay? I don't know what it's officially called. I know that it could easily be taken off with steel wool, the quadruple zero, and some Brazo or similar polish, okay? What I can tell from here is that someone has taken the time to kind of clean these bezels up, and that looks fantastic. What that's telling me is that, again, that they either paid someone in-house, or they paid someone locally, or at some point someone went through and did some fine polishing and cleaned all this stuff up, which is great for photos to try to sell a car. It doesn't mean that it's original, and it doesn't mean that that there isn't, maybe other things hiding. But again, they did tell us towards the beginning that there was a restoration. All right. A lot of times when we start to look in here and we'll start to look and say, okay, well, how nice is all this? And it does look pretty good, right? I mean, obviously you can see the clear coat. You start to see some of the things here. The bolts weren't taken out when they were painted. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it just calls into me for question how much of this car was really taken apart. Okay. It's fine to do a respray on a car, no problem there. But, just note that if you think about, a full restoration might be, are you talking a rotisserie restoration? Are you talking about every door was taken off, every wire was removed? Absolutely not. I would say definitely not in this one. That's something more like what Nathan Wilson would do. Typically, these items here, where the window switch, kind of this bezel area, you can see that this is highly polished, right? So it's a lot of bling. It's a lot of, hey, look at me. I look really, really good. And it does. But again, it calls into suspect. Did they just take a car that maybe was resprayed and clean it up? You can see here a big scuff. You can see here the door sills and things like that do look pretty good. The bezel for the switch, the seat switch, and kind of the seat. Again, you can see all of this is really, really, really nice. Now, there is a dent here, but again, a lot of jewelry, if you will. What I see here is the little item here doesn't look right? So this is kind of broken off the way the switch is. I've seen a guy lose out on a sale of a car for a couple small things when someone said it was a really nice car and they're missing things like this. From a Lincoln owner, I can tell you it's missing an item here. I do typically look to see, are the screws original or are they just, Home Depot type screws? Everything looks good in here for the most part. I don't own a 61 to 63, but it's got the original radio, and you can see all of this looks really good. So that's a good indicator. We can see the gauges down here. We can see there's no cracks. A lot of dash cleaner, if you will, was used to kind of spice this one up. Just kind of scrolling through here, you can see obviously suicide doors open. You can kind of get an idea. I always look to see where was it stored? What type of business is this? You can see the roof and things like that, the ceiling, if you will. A lot of photos, again, with the doors open. That's what you're typically going to see in an example like this, because they want to showcase, oh, wow, the cool factor. You're getting a Continental. You're getting suicide doors. I mean, how many photos are we going to show? Which, again, I'm good with a lot of photos, but you can see where a lot of the eye candy is at. It's focus here. Isotope wheels, again, very nice paint for the most part as far as that we can tell. You've got the door moldings on here, so that kind of shows us that these items, if removed, were replaced, which is good. I would say you really want to look in the dog leg here. This will kind of be a tell. Although on my 64, this is kind of bulging out a little bit and it does need to be repaired. Typically right in here will be rust and there'll be Bondo. So I think that's important to note that this does look pretty good. You can see a little bit based upon the way this corner is. I would say there's probably Bondo in here, okay? Not harping on the fact that sometimes people will use that. It's a little suspect. You'd want to kind of see, hey, is it all Bondo? Also, this area here where this stainless piece is mounted, you'd want to kind of look to see like, okay, is this resculptured? You see a little bit of a gap there. Nothing crazy, but you see how tight it is here. I would, again, want to have eyes on this car potentially just to make sure it is as nice as what they're presenting. I'm going to look in here. These are stainless on this year car. And I'm going to look at the bumper ends to look, hey, are there any rust areas? These do, and these are known for rusting out. On the deck lid, obviously these deck lids cost a lot of money if you can find an original one. So oftentimes, although this area might look fine, you want to look underneath this deck lid area where the water would maybe sit and things like that. And sometimes you will see on a car that's really not nice, you will see situations where there could be Bondo, there could be rust and things like that. So you want to kind of put your fingers up in that area to check. We do see, of course, the badges that are still on here. So that's a good thing. I'm looking here at the stainless trim and some, any of the items. This light right here, the tail light, I don't know if you can tell, but it clearly does not look right. Okay. Full restoration would not have that. Now, hopefully you guys understand, I'm not harping on this seller. I'm giving you feedback based upon what I look at. Okay, this is my opinion. I am not harping on the seller at all. This could be a great car, but some of the things that I've seen so far would make me want to put eyes on it or have someone look at it. So far, we have not seen any underneath photos. We have not seen anything super up close of potential rust spots and things like that. Here you can see the door, and you kind of see down here a little bit. Doesn't look too crazy, but again, I would be a little skeptical of how nice this car is presented. Is there any Bondo in here? Is there any rust and things like that? The one good thing I will tell you is so far we've scrolled through a ton of photos, and they have uploaded a lot of photos, and this is great. eBay only allows you to upload, 10-ish. So you can clearly see that they're using some sort of other service to allow them to upload all these high-quality videos. All of these pieces are stainless, and they do look polished, which is great. You see the windshield wipers. The dash has no cracks, which is fantastic. I do see what appears a little bubble here. And, again, I don't know, but I would be suspect if I was looking to buy this car. Even if they had one photo, okay, I would be suspect of this car because of the price, all right? You can buy a car that's airbagged with custom wheels for far, far less, okay? So anytime, this could be an original car, and if it's 100,000 plus, I'm immediately suspect. Now, you can see here, this does appear to be a reflection, so again, I'm nitpicking some things, and certainly, some of you guys, the viewers, might go, "Hey, you're nitpicking things a little bit." Totally get it. Having a 64 Lincoln Continental with air condition, which this shows us it has AC. This kind of tells me that, again, that they've had a cleaner or, a nice detailer come in here and clean all this. You got the little solenoids. You have the horns that were up in this region in this year. You can see how nice the radiator hoses to the expansion tank. All of that stuff looks super clean. And again, this is just that overhead view. And when you see all this, and let's say you don't know a lot about a car, you go, "Wow, man, that engine looks awesome." And it really does from this angle. One thing I'm also looking at here is these long little, they look thinner than these braces. The convertibles had these items here, and that's one extra thing that you'll see on the convertibles. They're often lost during restoration. Under the hood, you're going to see there's no insulation, which kind of tells me like, okay, wow, great. He's holding the hood right here, so I see his hand, and I'm wondering why he's holding the hood, okay? This hood, with the torsioner or the torsion bars, this hood comes up very easy with one finger and it will stay up, okay? What I'm wondering is, did someone during the restoration, did they take off those tensioners and they are a pain in the you-know-what to put back on? Is that why he's holding it? Also, why is there no insulation? Okay, you could argue and say, well, you don't really need insulation. That was something they did in the 60s. Well, is there any rust in this hood? Okay, the insulation will help with the heat that's going to hit the top of the hood. So I would suggest that you have insulation. One thing that John Cashman would say is take your hand, your fist, and kind of tap right up in here on the top of the hood and see if you hear rust showering down. Okay, so we're at the end. Okay, the number one thing I'll tell you right now there are no photos underneath this car. Okay? I have seen cars this nice or nicer on the outside be complete pieces of junk, literally parts cars, unless you want to take this and get a roadster style chassis and do a rotisserie restoration and put double this price that you're seeing right here in it. Okay. I am not saying that this seller is being deceptive. Okay. I am simply saying there's something to be said about if you have a car for $137,000, why would you not have a lift in your shop? Oh, you have a lift? Okay, why wouldn't you take the 10 minutes that it takes to drive the car into position, put it on a lift, put it up in the air, and display to us what's underneath this car? Okay, I'm talking underneath where the radiator's at. I'm talking underneath the battery tray, underneath the rear seats, you name it. We need to see under this car. Okay, my opinion is I would never in a million years pay this much for this car. Okay. Down here it talks about this is an as-is auction, no warranties. They're basically trying to get someone that makes a lot of money, like a football player, basketball player, you name it, come in here and say, man, I really want one. My buddy's got one. I want one of these verts. Boom. You can see they sell other cars, okay? So they could be upstanding folks. But if you've sold this many cars, where are the photos? All right. Also, when I look at this photo, you kind of see where the door's at. You know, it's not perfectly aligned. If I scroll all the way back up, we will be reminded that it kind of talks about some of these things and the alignment and the fitting and all that stuff. So again, this car I would never ever buy unless someone looked at it. And if someone did look at it and they put me at ease with all of the concerns that I had, then certainly if, you know, the money was there and you wanted one of these, that could be a car for you. Oh, by the way, did I miss it? Where is a photo with the top working? Where is a photo with the top up? Is the top been replaced? Okay. What's the material like? Is it a Jim Wallace top? Is it a top that has a million holes in it? Okay. Let's do this for sake of argument. I'm going to do Control F and I'm going to type in top. Okay. This says here with black leather interior and black soft top. I'm going to hit enter again. It's going to say the car rides on extremely isotope wheels, right? Isotope wheels. A power convertible top. It's a showstopper. One of a kind, which it's not one of a kind showstopper. Okay? There's no other. How could you sell a Lincoln Continental convertible and not tell us if the top works? Did John Cashman work on it? Who worked on it? Okay? Why is the top not discussed at all? I'm going to look at this photo here. I'm going to see that it's not a roadster. We know it is a convertible. Why is the top not discussed? Very, very suspect. If this was a full restoration, which you'll see those two words all the time, this would be a much better listing. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do more of these. Again, I'm not knocking the seller. Good luck to him. But be wary. Be diligent. ODB, the Lincoln Addict, we out you. Take care.
Big beats hit streets, see gangsters roaming. The party don't stop till 8 in the morning.